Well, today's events are a stark reminder of how often America has experienced violence at its highest levels. Assassinations and assassination attempts, an ever-present part of America's political landscape.
The idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate.
It may not be appropriate, but it's far from unheard of. Political violence runs through American history like a seam. The Civil War that defined the nation, leading to the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln in 1865. Over the next 36 years, two more presidents, Garfield and McKinley, were shot and killed. And in 1963, perhaps the most famous assassination of them all.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
American assassinations have not been limited to presidents. In the 5 years following Dallas, America saw the killing of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., and JFK's brother Robert Kennedy, then a presidential candidate. Deaths that fundamentally changed the trajectory of the United States.
From in the 60s, they were unquestionably consequential. It's reasonable to think that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a charismatic, extraordinary anti-war candidate, and a legacy of the Kennedy family, could have easily beaten Richard Nixon.
And like today, there have also been numerous close calls, from two attempts on President Gerald Ford in '75 to William Hinckley shooting Ronald Reagan in '81.
It did a lot for his popularity at the time. He trounced Jimmy Carter in that 1980 election pretty soundly, and after that, it was rare that you'd see a president out in the wild, so to speak.
In an increasingly fractured America, political violence of all stripes seems to be on the rise, from the home invasion of former Speaker Nancy Pelosi to the Capitol riots of January 6.
And I think it has to be said, you know, it's terrible that Donald Trump was shot at. No political candidate should be the subject of violence. And at the same time, very carefully, I'd like to say that there has been an aura of violence in America in the last 6 or 8 years, and most of it has come from the Trump side in a very, very specific and unmistakable way.
This was so wild, watching this moment in history play out live on television this morning, and it's quite bizarre when you think there were only centimetres between what we saw there and a very different kind of history. I want to show you this incredible photo that was taken by a New York Times photographer on the ground. That circle, inside that, is actually the trajectory of one of the bullets fired at Donald Trump.
That's the thing that's
amazing. How close it was. If he had turned a couple of centimetres.
But that's why I cannot understand how where this man was outside of the security zone for the Secret Service. If somebody could shoot and get that close to a presidential candidate, surely that is within the zone that the Secret Service should be looking at, and there's no way that that man should have ever been able to get there.
Yeah, there's been so many interviews with eyewitnesses who say that they saw the man, they pointed to him, and they tried to alert, the Secret Service, who at the time weren't quick to move or didn't move at all. The interview with the redhead guy we saw in the package, that whole interview, it was done by the BBC, it was absolutely fascinating.
Terrifying, but also incredible moment for Trump.
It's a crazy situation, and the fact they got back up, I read that what was yelled to when they were down, before this moment, so they're down on the ground, hiding, and apparently someone from Secret Service yelled out, "Shoot it down, move him." So they yelled that, "Shoot it down, move him," and so they went to move him, but he decided to stand up and face the crowd. He wasn't to know there wasn't other shooters there.
You can see the Secret Service trying to get him down. Even in
his head was above all. They're all risking their lives. And he's put his head above them, like let's have one more shot.
And that photo will be something we'll be talking about for decades to come. Just instantly iconic.